All right. Hey guys, so what we're going to do today is we are going to learn about rotations. So you've heard of transformations, you've learned about reflections, which are flips, translations, which are slides, and today you're going to talk about rotations, which are turns. So go ahead and make sure you hit pause and you copy this down. But a turn or a rotation is a turn around a fixed point called a center of rotation, and the figure rotates at a specific angle and direction. Though the figure can rotate around any fixed point, the most common center of rotation is the origin, which is point 0, 0. Eighth grade, we only focus on the origin. When you get up into the higher mass, it will rotate around a point. All right, so here's some important things that you'll need to know. First off, whenever you're talking about 90 degrees, it's always going to be one turn. So if you think of it like a clock, and I know we don't really use clocks that much anymore, but when you think of a clock, your 12 o'clock would be where the top of your y-axis is. So this would be like 12 is where you start at the y. And then it's going to tell you to turn it. Well, if you're going to turn this 12 to where it goes to the 9, so you physically turn your paper so it looks like that, that is called counterclockwise. So when the turn goes this way, it's counterclockwise, or maybe abbreviated CCW. And then if you're to take the top of your y-axis, which would be like your 12 of your clock, and you turn it towards the 3 like that, then that is called clockwise, or abbreviated as CW. So it's important to know which way you turn. If you turn in the wrong direction, you're going to get the wrong points. Now, there are some shortcuts here. Truthfully, I do not remember the shortcuts. What I do is I graph a couple points and I look at the pattern. Then once I know the pattern, then I can figure out what the other points are. But basically, if you were to start here and do one turn that way, then you'll get that. If you're doing 180, it's 2 turns. So if we were to start here and go 1, 2, that brings us here. And then 270 degrees counterclockwise would be 3 turns. So you go 1, 2, 3. So you're going to take that 12 o'clock, which is the top of your y-axis, and you're going to turn your graph. All right, now I will tell you, for me, I'm really good at equations and solving equations. I have to work a little bit harder with visualizing rotation. So one of the ways I do this is I physically turn the page, because it's very hard for me to visualize where the rotation would go. So I'm going to teach you how to do rotations where you physically turn the page and get your ordered pairs from there. So let's go ahead, let's get started. All right, you might want to hit this so that way you can get your steps written down. But let's go ahead and write these steps down, and then I'll show you how to do number 1. All right, so the first step is you're going to plot the pre-image. I've already done that here, so make sure you get your points and label them. Very important. So this is a pre-image, this is the original figure. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the paper to make a new XY axis. I'll show you what to do in a second. And you're going to write down what your new points will be. Then you're going to turn the paper back to its original, and then you're going to plot those new points on your original graph. So let's go ahead and let's look at this. So first off, this is 90 degrees, which is 1 turn. And we're going counterclockwise, so we're going to take our 12 o'clock and we're going to turn our paper 1 time that way. So if we do this correctly, this should end up in this position. All right, so this is my y-axis and this is my x-axis. So I'm going to take this and I'm physically turning my paper. So this point right here is going to be right here. Ready? We're doing 1 turn. So I'm picking my page up and I'm physically rotating my page. So now, see how your page is turned to the side? So your name at the very top of your page should be pointing towards your left hand. So here's where it's going to get crazy. All right, I made a new XY axis, but hold up. Look here. Isn't this up top now? This is where we're making a new XY axis. So we're going to ignore this guy. We're going to pretend this is our new Y. And down here, this is our new X. So if we were to pretend like this is a brand new Y-axis and a brand new X-axis, this point would be 1, 1 on our new graph, right? This point would be 2, 2, or we have 3, 1. So, or if you go over here, this would be -1, +1. So you're pretending like it's a brand new axis. So let's look at our points. So for A, we're going to count over 5, 6, 7. So this would actually be -7. So I'm going to write it just here. So I'm going to be -7. And then I'm going up 2. So, right, because isn't this -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7? But you're going up 2. This is +2. So for A prime, our new point's going to be -7, +2. And it's okay to write your points so it's turned sideways, because that just tells me that you you turned your paper. Okay, so let's look at the points for B. -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that's -5 for B. And then we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your B prime will be -5, 6. And then C should be -1, +4 for C prime. So now I've got my new points looking at how we turned our page. Now I'm turning my page back to its original position, and see how I have these points written sideways, which is totally fine. I'm just going to copy them down here so I can read them a little bit easier. So we said A prime was -7, +2. We said B prime was -5, +6. And we said C prime was -1, +4. Now, if this were an IXL or a Delta Math and it told you just to or it's just asking for what are the new ordered pairs, you can stop right here. But if it asks you to graph it, you have to go to the very last step. These are our new points. Now we're going to plot our new points as if we're on the original graph. All right. So now we're back to our normal graph where this is 1, 1. This is -1, +1. So we're going to plot -7, +2 back on our original graph. So you're going to go -1, -2, -3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up 2. And this is going to be A prime. B is going to be -5, +6. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is going to be B prime. And then C is going to be -1, +4. And that is C prime. And then connect your points. We labeled everything. We have our little prime notation there, so we know this is the new shape. All right. And there you go. And that's it. That's it. You've got your shape graphed. You've got your new points. And think about it. It makes sense. If we were to start in our first quadrant and go counterclockwise, which means we turn our paper this way, one turn, if we're in the first quadrant, this is the second quadrant. So it makes sense if you have one turn that your shape would end up here. All right, I'm going to do another one. I know this is tricky at first. Stick with it, and when you practice, it'll be a lot easier. So let's go ahead for number 2. Make sure you graph the original and label your points. Now, in this case, it happens to say 180. So 180 degrees is 2 turns. So remember, you take your 12 and you're actually going to turn it 2 turns. So your 12 should be down here now. Okay. Now, it does not say which way because it doesn't matter. You're turning your graph upside down. So I could go this way or I could go that way. It doesn't matter. So if I were to go this way 2 turns, I'm still going to end up here. So it doesn't matter which way. But what you're going to do is now we're going to take our graph and we're going to do 2 turns. So this guy right here, which was originally our Y, or 12 o'clock on our clock, I'm going to go this way. 1, 2. There's 1 turn. See how this guy is at 3? Now we're going to put it at the 6th position, which is down here. So see how your graph is upside down? And again, if I were to go back to the original and turn it this way, there's 1 turn, there's 2 turns. So either way, it's upside down. So it doesn't matter which direction you go, it's still upside down. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to make this is our new y-axis, this is our new x-axis. So again, this would be like 0.11, this is 0.21, this is -1, +1. So pretend like you've got a brand new XY axis. We're going to go back and we're going to look at our points. And let's go to point P. And point P, we are at negative 1, negative 2, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. Now I'm going to write my points upside down or just off to the side. And I've got negative 2, negative 6. So that way when I turn it back, I already have my points written down. All right, next up, I'm going to go Q, which would be right here. And I'm going to go negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. And then I'm going to go down 5. So Q prime is negative 6, negative 5. Now let's go to R. R is right here. And I'm going to go negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. I'm going to write that up here. And down 1, which makes it negative 1. Okay. And then lastly, we have S, which is right here. So S prime is going to be negative 1, negative 2. So again, if you're doing an IXL Delta Math, these are the new points. If it's only asking for the points, you're done here. But if it's asking you to graph it, you have to turn your graph back to the original position and write these here. So I'm just going to rewrite them because it'll be easier to graph. All right, so now these are all your new points. These are all the primes. So these are your new points. This is your image. Okay. All right, now let's go back and let's plot these bad boys right up here. Now, if we're looking at this 2 turns, we said first quadrant, so 2 turns should put us in the 3rd quadrant. Second, third. So if we did this correctly, our shape should be here. All right, negative 2, negative 6. So this is our P prime. Q prime, we said is negative 6, negative 5. All right, and then we have R prime, which is negative 5, negative 1. And S prime, which should be negative 1, negative 2. Okay, and remember, these should all be congruent shapes because rotations do not change the size of the shape. They just change the orientation, which means the direction it goes. Connect your points and then check to see if it makes sense. And then you're good to go. Are they congruent? Yes. Now be very careful. Watch your points. See how this is Q here, but R is here and R prime is here. So make sure you're watching your points and paying attention. Okay. I'm going to give you a hint on this one. You'll do the rest and I'll do one more for you. So here's a little hint. Whenever you have your, we talked about here, clockwise, counterclockwise, we talked about the turns. So remember, counterclockwise, you're taking your 12 and you're turning it to a 9, or you're taking the top of your paper and you're turning it to the left. Clockwise, you're going to turn to the 3. So, but there's different ways and there's little shortcuts. So if I were to go back here, 90 degrees counterclockwise is the same as 1, 2, 3. We're still going to end up at the same position. So this is the same as 270 clockwise. And then 270, if we're going 270, we're doing 3 turns. And we're supposed to be going, take this guy, and we're turning it that way. So let's just do this real quick. Let's take this guy and let's do 3 turns and see where this 12 o'clock ends up. And then we can write it here. 1, 2, so that's 180. And then 3 turns, here's your original. If you notice, your top of your paper should be pointing to your right hand, okay? So this is actually the same as 90 degrees clockwise. So these are kind of flip-flopped here. And then 180 is 180 because it doesn't matter what direction you change. You change it, you're still going to be upside down. All right, so let's go ahead and let's turn 3 turns this way, so I'll turn it back. So we're going to take this counterclockwise and turn it to the left. 1, 2, 3. And then remember, you're going to take your points, so it should be pointing towards your right hand. You're going to take your points, write them down somewhere off to the side. And then, so J, I have as 4. So remember, this is 1, positive 1, positive 1, right? This is negative 1, positive 1 over here. So J, which is right here, is actually going to be positive 1, 2, 3, 4. So J prime is going to be 4 for your X. And then we went down 3, so that's your Y. Okay? K prime is 4, but this time you're going down 6. Down 6. Okay. Then you have L prime, and that is positive 1, down 8. And then M prime is positive 1, down 1. All right, these are our new points of our image. Okay, new points, that's your image. Now we've got our points. Turn it back to the original position and plot your new points. So you can go ahead and either write these in, which I highly suggest just so it's easier to do. All right, and then once you got these, plot them on your thing. So got 4, negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So that's your J prime. Okay, K prime is positive 4, down 6. 6, so that is K prime. L prime is 1, negative 8. And then M prime is 1, negative 1. Okay, connect your points. And then again, if you're to look at your figures, they should be congruent. And it makes sense because this would be 3 quadrants over if you go counterclockwise, or if you go 270 counterclockwise is the same as 90 degrees clockwise, which would be this way. So it makes sense. Okay, you're going to complete the rest. I'm going to do one last one. I'm going to get you started, and you're going to do the rest. All right, all the way on 13. This one is just slightly different because you're moving clockwise. So this is 90 degrees, which is 1 turn. But clockwise means you're going to take this and you're going that direction. So you're taking the 12 o'clock and moving it to the 3. So I'm going to take the top. I've already plotted the points and labeled. And I'm going to turn my page. So now the top of the page is pointing towards my right hand. Okay? And you're going to do the same thing. But this time you've got 1, 1 up here. So it's the same thing. You're just turning it the other way. So if you do this correctly, your shape should be right here when you turn it back. So I'll do a quick little thing for you guys, so that way you guys can see what you should have. All right, so L should be 5, negative 1, or L prime, excuse me. M should be 8, negative 3. And N should be 1, negative 8, or N prime, excuse me. Okay, so these are our new points. You're going to go ahead, you're going to write them on here, and then you're going to plot it. So if we did 90 degrees clockwise, if we're in the first quadrant, our shape should be down here, which is the 4th quadrant. So plot these, write these on here so you have everything written neatly and correctly. But like I said, if you did this correctly, your shape should be in here. Don't forget to label. All right, so again, plot these, and if you did it correctly, it should be here. All right, go ahead, finish the rest of this paper. These are tricky at first, but obviously, the more you practice, the better you get. And that is how you do rotations.